The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the journal.
In Senate, Sunday, April 14, 2024, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Saturday, April 13, 2024, was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly. The Secretary will read.
Senator Kavanaugh moves to discharge from the Committee on Commerce, Economic Development, and Small Business Assembly Bill number 8615, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 8385, third reading calendar 569.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions.
Good afternoon. Ask my colleagues to please join us at the request of Senators Mannion and May in a moment of silence for the fallen law enforcement officials, the Syracuse police officer and the Onondaga County Sheriff's deputy who lost their lives recently.
Senator Gianaris.
Moving into motions and resolutions, Mr. President, amendments are offered to the following. Third reading calendar bills by Senator Holman Siegel, calendar 700, Senator Harkin, calendar 657, Senator Mayer, calendar 623.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
Okay, now let's move on to previously adopted resolution 1576 by Senator Prasad. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Webb on that resolution, please.
Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 1576 by Senator Prasad, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 11 through 17, 2024 as Black Maternal Health Week in the state of New York.
Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise and I want to thank Senator Prasad for introducing this important resolution memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 11th through the 17th of 2024 as Black Maternal Health Week in the state of New York. This has been an annual commemoration. This is actually the 7th year. And the theme for this year's Black Maternal Health Week is "Our bodies still belong to us, reproductive justice now." And so I'm proud that here in this chamber, we are joining the voices of many other chambers, local communities across this great state and this country to lift up this important issue. I am very proud of the work that we are doing in this chamber to pass legislation to address this public health crisis facing Black mothers in New York, because the stakes, unfortunately, are staggeringly high for Black mothers, their infants, their families, for all birthing people. In the U.S., Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women. The CDC notes that more than 80% of pregnancy-related deaths are also preventable. Black women face poorer health outcomes than their peers because of systemic issues in the healthcare system. These shortcomings include, and are not limited to, racism in the healthcare system, reduced high-quality care options for Medicaid recipients, and incentives for providers to perform more expensive procedures due to Medicaid reimbursements for vaginal births and less invasive procedures. Major underrepresentation of people of color in the medical field. Also, systemic issues in our society, including higher levels of chronic long-term stress for Black women, compounded by the effects of poverty, lack of access in low-income and rural areas, the impact of restrictive abortion laws and denied abortion care disproportionately affect Black mamas, worsened further by structural barriers such as economic disparities and limited access to quality family planning services, and that comes from NIH, or the National Institute of Health. Mr. President, these disparities also impact Black maternal mental health. In the United States, 29 to 44% of Black women experience postpartum depressive symptoms, also known as PDS. And I want to thank my esteemed colleague, Senator Summer Brooke, our chair of mental health, who has been a strong champion on this issue as well. Yet few are properly identified and or connected to mental care services. As a state, we can and must do better for mothers birthing people and their infants. As the chair of the Senate's Women's Issues Committee, I am committed to fighting to ensure that New York is a safe and supportive place for mothers, infants, and their families. I am especially grateful to our Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, for her support and leadership in making this happen, along with my colleagues. Just this year, we introduced a 12 package pieces of legislation that are designed to address maternal and reproductive health outcomes here in New York, and it was introduced on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, lifting up the importance of doing this work and expanding access to maternal and reproductive health care. I am very proud to be voting in favor of this resolution, and I hope my colleagues will join me in celebrating Black Maternal Health Week by voting aye. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Webb. Senator Brooke on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank Senator Prasad and Senator Webb for their leadership, and of course our Majority Leader for bringing this resolution once again, because as we say we'd like to celebrate Black Maternal Health Week, the truth is I really look forward to a time when it can just be an entire week talking about the joys of birth and the joys of motherhood and the fact that Black women are no longer more likely to die in childbirth. Until that point, though, we are going to use this week not just to celebrate, yes, there is still joy in childbirth and in motherhood, but to also take it as a charge to continue doing the work that this body has really in earnest begun to do in the past few years to address the Black maternal mortality crisis. In the state where we all have the honor and privilege of representing New Yorkers, Black women today are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth. Black women today are twice as likely to suffer from a maternal mental health condition and half as likely to get the help that they need. The good news is that this body together has truly come together, and I will say in a bipartisan effort to ensure that we are tackling the maternal mortality crisis and that we are putting Black women at the center of how we address these issues. So I want to say thank you again to all of my colleagues for our continued work, and to say I look forward, as many of you do, to the day where we are simply enjoying and celebrating Black motherhood during this week, and we no longer have the mortality crisis in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brooke. The resolution was adopted on January 9th. Senator Gianaris.
Let's move on next to previously adopted Resolution 1922 by Senator Harcum. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Harcum.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1922 by Senator Harcum, mourning the death of Herbert F. Geller, distinguished veteran and devoted member of his community.
Senator Harcum on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise today to celebrate the life of my friend and mentor, Herbert F. Geller. Herb was quite an individual, part of the greatest generation, served in World War II in England and in Germany, came back, went to journalism school, married the love of his life, Gloria, had 3 daughters, Nisa, Jerry Ann, and Sharon, and Herb worked in journalism, both locally and regionally, but I knew Herb from politics. And, you know, we get to these offices, and I'm sure we all like to think it's because of our force of our personality or our dashing good looks. Not in my case, of course. But the reality is we know we stand on the shoulders of our predecessors. And the part of Westchester County I'm from very often was not represented by folks from my party. In fact, I was the first person in over 100 years to win this seat from my party. And it was in large part to the work of people like Herb Geller. Herb was tireless in his efforts long before I was even in that part of the county. He was a passionate Democrat. He was an FDR Democrat. And the funny thing was, he used to call me kid. And I suppose when you're 102, you can call someone in their 60s kid. But I used to relish my time with Herb and with Gloria. But Herb was not just a partisan. I mean, Herb was well respected in the community in which he lived, North Salem. He was a commander of the VA. He, for decades, ran the Memorial Day Parade and the 9/11 celebration, and was really a credible force in the community for bringing the community together around our common values. And so, you know, I worked with Herb for several decades to build capacity and finally begin winning elections in our part of Westchester and the Hudson Valley. And the success that many people are enjoying today is because of the tireless work of people like Herb Geller for years. And I want to go back to one other thing in his career. And I didn't even know this about Herb because he was so humble until I reread the resolution. Herb was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for his journalism. And it was never about Herb. Like he never mentioned the nomination for the Pulitzer. He never mentioned his service in World War II, which was truly heroic. And these are the folks who built our country, who built our communities, and on the shoulders who we stand on. So I stand again to pay tribute to my friend and mentor, Herb Geller. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Senator Harckham. The resolution was adopted on March 12th. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, the two resolutions we took up are open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator Gianaris.
There's a report of the Finance Committee at the desk. Let's take that up now, please.
Secretary will read.
Senator Krueger from the Committee on Finance reports the following nomination. As Executive Director of the Thruway Authority, Francis G. Hoare.
Move to accept the report of the Finance Committee, and please recognize Senator Krueger.
All those in favor of accepting the report of the Finance Committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The report of the Finance Committee is accepted. Senator Krueger on the nomination.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm very proud to stand here to ask my colleagues to all support the confirmation of Francis Hoare, usually known as Frank, to be the head of the New York State Thruway Authority. Some of us might think, hasn't he been doing that forever? And the answer is yes, but under different titles and yet to be confirmed by this House. Many people here know Frank Hoare. Many people here also wonder why anyone would want to run the Thruway Authority. It's like getting the job running the MTA. People are just mad at you all the time. So really appreciate that knowing what the job is, he actually wants to become the official head of the New York State Thruway Authority. People may know that Frank has worked in public service in a variety of ways through his entire life. As I mentioned, he's been at the Thruway Authority since 2020. Prior to that, he was a deputy secretary for legislative affairs at the then governor's office. He's been general counsel at the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. He tried the private sector for a little while, but came back. He's been the deputy attorney general for the Attorney General of the state of New York, associate counsel for the New York State Division of Military and Naval Affairs. Many of us know him from his work with Assemblymember Herman Denny Farrell for an extended period of time. And he was also involved with civil litigation in federal and state courts. And he's also been a member of the U.S. Army Reserves in a number, bless you, of legal and judge advocates role, advancing to the rank of lieutenant colonel. Check that out. That's a very high rank. Well done, Francis Hoare. So I think, again, he performed excellently in the committee hearings. He covered all the questions people had, again, highlighting people's frustration with the Thruway Authority. We really care about our transportation. And I do appreciate the fact that he and his family are willing to continue their commitment to the state of New York through continuing in this position. And I hope all of my colleagues will also hope to support him today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Senator Mayer on the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's really an honor and a pleasure to speak on behalf of my friend Frank Hoare. You know, sometimes in this chamber we diminish the value of experience in state government, but there is a great deal to be said for someone who has served in as many capacities as Frank, including in the Assembly, in the Executive, as Commissioner, and 4 agencies. And with those years of service, Frank has a distinguished record, not only of his own as being a judge advocate for the U.S. Army Reserves, but to me, the things that Frank stands for are not only experience, but competence, honesty, and integrity. He is a breath of fresh air at the Thruway Authority. I had my own struggles with them prior to his appointment. And I think the kind of character that he brings to this job is the kind of thing we are looking for when we fight on behalf of our constituents to have agencies respond. So I'm really couldn't be more pleased with the governor's appointment. I look forward to continuing to work closely with Frank. And I just know that his stellar reputation, his commitment to public service, his knowledge of what regular New Yorkers want from state agencies and authorities will drive his performance. And I am confident that, notwithstanding the struggles he'll have with members of the legislature, which goes with the job, and he knows it very well, it will all be on the side of serving the people of New York. I'm proud to vote aye on his nomination.
Thank you, Senator Mayer. Senator Kennedy on the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to support the nomination of Frank Hoare as Executive Director of the Thruway Authority. First, I want to recognize the governor for putting forward such an extraordinary nominee, somebody that has served this state in so many different capacities and has served this great country, who has earned his rightful place, whether it be in government here today at the highest levels, helping to move people throughout our state, or whether it be out in the community where he has served so nobly and extensively. He is impeccably qualified for the role of Executive Director of the Thruway Authority. Today in the chamber, he's joined by his wife, Kathleen Calhoun, in her own right, an expert in transportation and a leader in government over many years. He also is joined by their daughter, Chelsea, and his brother, Thomas, as well as their beautiful grandson, Landon. Welcome to all of you. As we move this nomination on the floor of the Senate today, I think it's important not only that we recognize the role that he's served as a public servant in government in the many capacities that have already been articulated, but in his leadership role as Lieutenant Colonel, spending 28 years in the United States Army Reserve as a judge advocate, including overseas deployments to Germany, Bosnia, Iraq, and Afghanistan, after earning his JD from SUNY Law School here in Albany. And more recently, we've seen him in action at the Thruway Authority, both as the counsel as well as the interim executive director since the end of 2022. As the chair of the Transportation Committee, I could tell you that Frank went through extensive questioning from a wide range of issues from all across the state of New York, and answered the questions in a professional, honest, and extremely educated style. That's how he operates. That's who he is. And in that capacity, reiterating what Senator Mayer already mentioned, demonstrated his unique moral character that he is defined by, both professionally as well as personally. And so on a personal note, I've known Frank for well over a decade and have seen him in action here in New York State, serving in the many capacities, but again, out in the community as an advocate, always helping people and playing an advocate role both within and outside of government. So with all of that said, it is a tremendous honor and privilege that we nominate you here today, Frank Hoare, as the Executive Director of the Thruway Authority. I'm confident that Frank and his team will do incredible work, with him spearheading the way in his new capacity and continue his lifetime of service to our state and our country. I vote aye. Congratulations.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Jackson on the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Frank Hoare as the Executive Director of the New York State Thruway. And I've known Frank and his family growing up in Washington Heights and Inwood, the areas that I represent. And when I opened up the booklet and saw Frank's name, I said, wow, I'm so happy for him and his family. So Frank, good to see you and your family. Tom, you know, I've always admired the family that working in the community of where we grew up at, and I say to you, I'm so proud of you today, and Mr. President, I proudly vote aye.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Senator Gianaris to close on the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have known Frank Hoare for about 3 decades, when I was a member of the staff of the State Assembly, and he was the top staffer for the late, great Denny Farrell, and have worked with him ever since in different capacities for each of us. But one thing I can say about Frank is he is a true public servant in the best sense of the word, very responsible, diligent, honest, and will always give you the answers you're seeking, even if it's not what you want to hear, such as when these rest stops are going to reopen all along the Thruway. I know he's working as hard as he can to get them open expeditiously, but there's nobody I would rather have in this job to make sure that the Thruway Authority is being run responsibly and to the best of his ability. So Frank, looking forward to working with you in another new capacity for you, and I know it's going to be a very successful assignment. I very proudly vote yes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gianaris. The question is on the nomination. Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56.
The nominee is confirmed. Please rise and be recognized for Kathy Calhoun and your family. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, we want to make sure the new Thruway Authority Director gets paid, so there will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee, room 332.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
Stand at ease.
Senate will stand at ease. The Senate will return to order. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, let's begin by taking up the calendar at this time.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 474, Senate Print 688 by Senator May, an act to amend the executive law.
Bill is laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 478, Senate Print 2481 by Senator Hoylman Siegel, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 478, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Griffo, Helming, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, and Rollison. Ayes 50, nays 8.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 569, Assembly number 8615 by Assemblymember Fall. An act to amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 569, voted in the negative. Senator Martinez, ayes 57, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 608, Senate Print 4349 by Senator Sepulveda, an act to amend the real property tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 58.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 648, Senate Print 2730 by Senator Sanders, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 13, this act shall take effect on the 180th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 648, voted in the negative are Senators Brisport and Salazar, ayes 56, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 691, Senate Print 3381A by Senator Kennedy, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Senator Kennedy to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to speak about this bill. I'm proud to sponsor the Language Access Expansion Act. We all know that the years that we went through the pandemic magnified the disparities that exist within all of our communities. Those in the immigrant, refugee, and non-native English-speaking communities disproportionately felt the pain of the pandemic. Not only did those communities suffer the loss of life like so many others, but they were often left without life-saving information and essential communication. In 2011, the executive issued an order that required translation services for the top 6 languages spoken across New York State, but this being New York, we knew that that was inadequate. That's why we drafted legislation in collaboration with the New York Immigration Coalition that would require essential public documents to be translated into the 12 most common non-English languages spoken across New York State. I'm proud to report that we were able to include a significant portion of the bill in last year's budget, a huge victory for language access and our intent with this legislation. Now we're focused on other aspects of that bill that were not included in the budget, which is why we're here today. Just as important as the number of languages is how we update the languages based upon the population of individuals across the state. Under this legislation, there would also be a regular review of languages spoken in New York based on the U.S. Census and American Community Survey and the origin of the most recent arrivals for the previous 5 years. It would also direct state agencies to make translations of documents available in each region of the state in the 3 most common non-English languages that are spoken in that particular region, and not already included in the 12 most common languages that are spoken that were already mentioned. This legislation was designed to open the doors of government to so many and to provide these communities with the dignity that they rightfully deserve here in this great state and here in this great country. I want to thank our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and our entire Democratic Conference for their strong commitment to this issue and everything that's been shown to improve the lives of all New Yorkers, specifically by increasing accessibility and inclusivity. And this policy will do just that. Lastly, this, like so many ideas, was driven by advocates. I want to take a moment to thank the New York Immigration Coalition and specifically the Executive Director, Murad Awada, as well as the Upstate Advocacy Director, Megan Maloney de Zaldivar, and the entire team at the Coalition for leading this effort. They are the boots on the ground, the frontline helpers going above and beyond to ensure that we're opening doors here in New York instead of closing them. I'm grateful for their partnership, their thoughtfulness, and their attention to detail as we improve these important policies and move them forward here in this chamber. With that, Mr. President, I thank you. I vote aye.
Senator Kennedy, to be recorded in the affirmative, announce the results.
In relation to calendar 691, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Kinsey Fitzpatrick, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Steck, Tedisco, Weber, and White. Ayes 42, nays 17.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 694, Senate Print 4790 by Senator Rivera, enactment of the Social Services Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 694, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Lanza, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, and Rhodes. Ayes 53, nays 6.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 720, Senate Print 1669 by Senator Adabo, an act to amend the education law.
Lay it aside.
Calendar number 729, Senate Print 1092 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 758, Senate Print 2722 by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the alcoholic beverage control law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Mr. President, there's a report of the Rules Committee at the desk. Let's take that up.
The Secretary will read.
Senator Stewart Cousins from the Committee on Rules reports the following bill. Senate Print 9055 by Senator Kruger, an act making appropriations for the support of government. Bill reports directed third reading.
Move to accept the report of the Rules Committee.
All those in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The report of the Rules Committee is accepted. Senator Gianaris.
Now let's take up the supplemental calendar.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 813, Senate Print 9055 by Senator Kruger, an act making appropriations for the support of government.
Is there a message of necessity and appropriation at the desk?
There is a message of necessity and appropriation at the desk.
Move to accept the message of necessity and appropriation.
All those in favor of accepting the message signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The message is accepted and the bill is before the House.
Lay it aside.
Lay it aside. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the supplemental calendar.
Let's now take up the controversial calendar.
Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 813, Senate Print 9055 by Senator Kruger, an act making appropriations for the support of government.
Senator O'Mara, why do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions on this extender bill for Senator Kruger, if she would.
Senator Kruger, will you yield?
Of course I will.
Senator yields.
Senator, this is our 5th extender now. We are now 2 weeks late on the budget, so 5 extenders in 14 days. How long does this extender keep government in the state going?
This runs through April 18th, so that would be Thursday.
Through you, Mr. President. The senator will continue to yield.
The senator yield?
Yes.
Senator yields.
Does that mean we would have to do another extender on Thursday if the budget isn't done, or could we do the next extender on Friday?
I believe we would have to do one Thursday if it's still necessary, if we've not completed budget bills.
Through you, Mr. President, the senator will continue to yield.
Senator yield.
Yes.
Senator yields.
Senator, there's still a lot of people around the Capitol here that are in the dark on what's going on with this budget process. There's no clips this week. We're in full daylight now, although I feel like I still have those glasses on with regards to this budget, as do most people around this Capitol. Can you tell us at this moment where we stand on a budget agreement and actually putting together budget bills to bring to the floor to vote and debate?
So interestingly, I just got an announcement that the governor's doing a 4:45 presser on the budget, and so that was news to me. So we might all learn something at 4:45 today.
Well, thank you, Senator Krueger, because that was going to be my next question as to whether Leader Stewart Cousins or Speaker Hasty were going to be involved in that announcement of 4:45. So I guess the answer to that is no.
I can't speak for Mr. Hasty or the Assembly. I think it was a surprise to all of us in the Senate.
Thank you. Mr. President, would Senator continue to yield?
Senator, will you yield?
Yes.
Senator yields.
You know, Senator, we're running now into these delays where we're encroaching into the school budget cycle, and our school budgets are getting increasingly antsy on finalizing their budgets that need to go to the public in May. I've been hearing from superintendents, what's it going to be? Where are we at? Can you tell us where we are with the education portion of the budget, where that spending is going to be, and what we should be telling our school superintendents as they formulate their budgets?
Unfortunately, until we complete the budget process and pass bills, I cannot give any specific information about what happens to schools. I do think we will get there before the schools need to know what the numbers are. And I agree, it's extremely frustrating for school districts. It's probably the one area where when we have delays like this, you start to hear from people that they're concerned. I can say, on behalf of myself only, I'm relatively optimistic that the outcome of the budget will be much better for school districts than the original executive budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill.
Senator O'Meara on the bill.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. I wish I could share your optimism, but since little to no specifics have come out on this budget thus far, other than rumors and speculation, and that there was a deal over the weekend and that fell apart because of significant issues, to tell my school superintendents that, don't worry, I'm optimistic, be loose, hang loose on putting your budget together. That's not the way they operate. They're far more responsible than that in putting together the school budgets that they have to do to put before the voters. We just have to put together a budget here to put before us in the legislature, not the public. So we have a job that we have to do here so that others in the state can do their jobs. And these delays are only aggravating the situation. So I'll be supporting this extender today. I'm not sure how much longer I can continue to support these extensions with no information out there other than, I'm optimistic that schools are going to be okay. We need to know that sooner rather than later. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator O'Meara. Senator Wyke, why do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill.
Senator Wyke on the bill.
This budget is 2 weeks late. And because it's 2 weeks late, it's created nothing but chaos for schools and the school budget process. I have 8 or 9 schools that stand to lose millions and millions of dollars, which means laying off teachers, cutting programs. Our students are going to lose out even further. After 2 years of COVID learning loss, this is not the time to be laying off teachers and cutting programs. How can schools create a budget to be voted on next month if we don't have the information for them now? So many of my school districts are meeting this week to create that budget that gets voted on next week. So many teachers stand to lose their job. Voting New Yorkers are going to lose their job if schools are not fully funded like we did last year. This year, because of cuts of other funding, our schools not only need to have full funding of foundation aid, but we need to allocate 3% to the hold harmless so that they can continue doing the great jobs that they've been doing and not lay off teachers or cut programs. And for that, Mr. President, I will be voting in favor of this bill. However, I think this is the last extender I can vote on.
Thank you, Senator Wyke. Senator Helming, why do you rise?
Mr. President, if the sponsor will yield for a couple of questions.
Senator Krueger, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator Krueger yields.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Through you, Mr. President. Senator Krueger, when Senator O'Meara was asking questions about schools and stressing the importance of getting them the information so they could plan their budgets, I thought I heard you say that you're optimistic that we will get the information out to the schools before they need it. Can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by before they need it?
Well, given the date, obviously they would have preferred to have it by April 1st. I think we are quite close to closing down the budget negotiations, but we are not there yet. So there's not a lot of detail I can offer other than the school districts could try to plan for their current year, their future year, using the numbers that the governor offered in her executive budget. I suppose that would be the most conservative action to take. I'm pretty confident that we're going to end up in a much better place for them than if we had accepted the governor's budget. So it goes back to, I think, a point I made the last time we did an extender. I would personally rather have a late budget than a bad budget. And so if being late means we're going to get to a better place for our communities, for our school districts, then I'm willing to accept that, yes, being late is no one's ideal, but coming up with better numbers for education because we did take the time to fight this out is worth it.
Mr. President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So Senator Krueger, you are saying that what you anticipate being in the final budget will be better for school districts across the board than what they had last year? Or are you saying it should be equal to what they received last year?
No, I said that I believe that the outcome when we complete the budget will be better than the proposed executive budget when the governor put hers out.
Mr. President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, have you personally heard from school districts who are making cuts now in preparation for the state budget?
I've heard from colleagues who come from all over the state that have been bringing that issue up to us, absolutely. I represent New York City, so it's a little different story for New York City, who also has significant concerns about the school budgets and are facing proposed cuts by the mayor of New York City in the city budget, but I don't by definition have lots of individual districts myself, but many of my colleagues do, yes.
Through you, Mr. President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, I do want to make you aware, I represent something like 37 school districts, and there are several of them that year after year I bring up on this floor prior to budget, during budget time, that they're harmed by the foundation aid formula. They don't receive their fair share of funding. One of those school districts, Marion, just laid off 30 employees. They gave 30 employees notice. Can you elaborate or shed any light on, will we see something in this budget that adjusts the foundation aid formula so that these schools, like Marion, like Caledonia Mumford, like Huntington Falls Lima, like Gananda, that they're not harmed again this year?
I can't give out any data on specific school districts. I know that we have talked in other years as well that sometimes we have been able to assist individual districts through bullet aid in addition to the funding formula. I think that my colleague knows we are equally frustrated that the core formula for establishing education money to each district is woefully out of date, and that we have called for, and hopefully will now get, an evaluation of a new set of foundation aid formula options that hopefully by a year from now, we might be using a new improved formula that will more adequately address the needs of school districts. So I think we share both the frustration that the current formula hasn't kept up with the realities of the 21st century, and I think we share a desire to change that formula. That formula will not, by definition, be changing necessarily in this budget year, but we are absolutely trying to protect and hold harmless from school districts cuts that were proposed in the governor's original executive budget for fiscal year 24-25.
President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Will sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, just going back for a moment to the reality of the timelines that school budgets, school districts and school boards are subject to, it's my understanding that they're required to put out legal notice on 4 separate occasions before they pass their budget. The first notice had to be done the week of between April 2nd and 6th. Are you aware of that?
I don't believe I was aware of that, no. Or if I knew it, I forgot it by now, so I apologize.
President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, are you aware that time truly is of the essence so that these school boards can put together a responsible spending plan that people in their districts have time to consider before they vote? Do you know that in 11 days, April 26th, that's the date that they're required to distribute the military ballots?
Military ballots for school board elections.
And
Just
the budgets,
clarifying.
if somebody wants to vote on the budget?
No, that's also useful information, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, on the bill,
Senator Helming on the bill.
we have passed numerous extenders, which I have supported because I thought it was extremely important that the state fund programs like housing for our veterans, that we fund programs, continue to make payments for WIC, women, infants, and children. But we're getting to that point now where we are really causing undue stress and strain on our school districts, some of our municipalities, and others. We need to get this budget done. This will be the last time that I am voting yes on an extender.
Thank you, Senator Helming. Senator Rhodes, why do you rise?
Will the sponsor yield to a few questions?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, thank you so much for yielding to questions. You just indicated, by the way, that if there was a significant issue with respect to a school district, that there would be bullet aid available. Did you not?
At that in previous years, we have been able to help individual districts who, because of the, I think, flaws in the foundation aid formula, needed additional help.
Okay, and the sponsor will continue to yield?
The sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Do we know if that bullet aid will be available to individual districts on a case-by-case circumstance this year?
We don't know that yet, because it's one of the final things in the budget, but based on my history here, that has usually been available.
And will the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Incidentally, will the bullet aid be made available to both majority and minority districts?
Historically, it has. Again, I can't say anything about future. I'm hoping that we can actually address most of these concerns through the actual budget.
And will the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, I know you indicated that the governor is planning on having a 4:45 press conference and that the majority has no idea what the governor is planning to announce. Is that correct?
Well, I can't say for everyone, but I know when we walked in this room, we were not aware of that. And when I saw that announcement, I sent a message to leadership saying, did we know about this? And the answer was no. So I don't know between that text and chatting here whether some new information has come up, but I think we're all wondering what happens at 4:45.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Would we be safe to assume that based upon the fact that the governor's having a press conference that the majority is not aware of, that that would not be to announce that there's some sort of budget deal?
I live long enough to know that you never really know what's going to happen in Albany till it does.
Fair enough. Fair
We
enough.
only have 15 minutes to wait.
on the bill, Mr. President. Thank you,
Senator,
Senator Krueger.
Senator Rhodes on the bill.
The reality is that school districts are suffering, and I know we've had a number of questions with respect to school districts. The timeline is such that military ballots have to be mailed out by April 26th. Those military ballots do include a budget. Military members have an opportunity not only to vote on their school board members, but have the opportunity to vote on the budget itself. According to the deadlines that have been established for school districts, they must have a budget voted on to be presented in those military ballots by April 23rd. We are 8 days away from doing that. Now, you would say as a Senate, we're not doing our job. But this is only part of the Senate. There are conference committees that are supposed to be taking place, conference committees which both majority and minority members are supposed to be participating in. However, other than an initial meeting for the conference committee, none of these conference committees have actually met, which means it is literally 3 people or 3 teams of people in a room without the minority being represented. The shame of it is, as alluded to by Senator Krueger, not being aware of some of these deadlines that school districts face, is that actual districts are making real decisions now. As Senator Helming pointed out, 30 employees lost their job at one school, at one district, in her district. In my own district, we had several employees laid off from the Hicksville School District because they need to make decisions now. People are literally losing their jobs because you are not doing your job. That is unacceptable. And while I will be supporting this resolution because we need to continue to fund the operations of government, don't let my assent be seen as affirmation or acceptance of the fact that this process is broken, that this Senate continues not to be able to perform its essential responsibilities, despite the fact that it should theoretically be easier to get an on-time budget when you have one-party rule here in Albany, but that seems not to be the case. The process is as dysfunctional as ever, and while I vote aye, Mr. President, I am embarrassed by the state of this process and concerned about the impact that it's having on our school districts and the people that rely upon them for employment as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Rhodes. Senator Tedisco, why do you rise?
Would the sponsor yield, Senator Krueger yield for some questions?
Sponsor, will you yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So Senator Krueger, I think you and I are from different regions of the state. A lot of your members on that side are from downstate, some from upstate, some Western New York. But I think our constituents are agreeable in one area. They want transparency. They want us to be their representatives. They want us to interact with them. And if you're probably like me, there are many busy people. They're going to work. They're taking their kids to schools, the medical appointments. They don't have a lot of time to concentrate on what's taking place maybe here, even on a $235 billion to $240 billion spending plan. But there's a disconnect sometimes between our regions also. Sometimes it's more serious up here. My constituents are a lot closer to what's taking place at the Capitol, so they're more familiar if we blow past a deadline. And as I mentioned the other day, they go to work and they don't expect to have a deadline or have something they're expected to accomplish and not do that, and not in some way, financial or otherwise, in terms of having their job, not have it again. But my question to you is, because I'm out there very close to my constituents, because my district's only 10 to 15 to 20 minutes away from the Capitol here. And what they ask me, because they are in tune with the budget process, with the migration that's taking place, with the exodus, with concerns about spending, taxes, and borrowing. And they asked me, Senator, why is the budget so late? Why has it been so late? But primarily they asked me, what is the process that takes place? Now, I know that the governor gave us her budget, and we all looked at that and evaluated that. We took it to conference. Then it was our turn, so the majority developed their particular spending plan. It's very difficult for us to be involved with that because, as you know, we're in the minority. The Assembly did the same thing. They had their own budget plan. But, Senator, from this point on, with my constituents watching and listening in the media, can you explain, well, I was going to say how the budget process works, but that's a misnomer because it obviously doesn't work right now. Can you explain, as clear as you can, the budget process from when it came from the governor, you developed your one house, and the Assembly developed their one house? What was the procedure 15 days ago, and what will it be 20 days from now, or in this process in between? What is the process that takes place? Because some of them are watching. They have the ability to do that. They're listening, some of them. As I said, some of them are busy, many with U-Haul, you know, because we're having this exodus. But they want to know exactly what the process is, and potentially, in listening to that, what the holdup could be with us doing arguably the most important job we're elected to do, be the stewards of their taxpayers' dollars and make sure we're investing in a way that creates a better quality of life, incentivizes people to stay, live, work, build a home, get a job, build a business, get an education. So is it possible to explain what that process is, the budget process itself?
Yes, thank you. So as was mentioned, the governor puts out her proposed budget. We have budget hearings, we hear from people. We developed our own plan, which we think is a far superior budget proposal, our one-house budget proposal. I think I heard Senator Tedisco say, and they put out their plan also, but I don't think they put out a plan. I think just we put out a plan, and the Assembly put out a plan. And throughout that time, and since we each voted on our budget, one-house budgets, we've been having ongoing three-way dialogues between the Senate, the Assembly, and the governor, literally going line by line from her executive budget to what we believe are better answers for the people of New York, including the fact that we believe that the governor's proposals to cut education aid for half the districts in the state were unacceptable. And so we have been working hard to make sure that every district ends up with more than that was originally proposed. And as I mentioned before already, to reevaluate how we do foundation aid and the calculations of it. We know that it's frustrating to be late on budgets. That's why we would far prefer an on-time budget. But we believe it has been worth the fight to get a better set of outcomes for the people of New York State, whether they are Senator Tedesco's constituents, Senator Murray's constituents, Senator Gustavo Rivera's constituents, in every part of the state. But it does involve a push and pull, negotiations, line by line in this budget, and so it's unfortunately taking us longer than we would have hoped. Nobody really wants us to be late. I've been here as long as August waiting to get a budget done in at least 1 year. So trust me, I far prefer we get it done sooner. And I think frustration of our constituents, all of them, no matter where they live, does grow as it takes longer and longer. But I am confident that the budget we are going to bring to this floor for a vote will be significantly better for our constituents than the one the governor originally proposed. And I would even argue that it will have been worth the wait and the fight to get there. I hope I am right on that. I'm feeling pretty good that that will be the storyline, but it's taking us a little longer. Maybe not that much longer. I do think that we are in agreement through negotiations on many pieces of the budget, but I don't think we were closed, as they say, today when we walked into the session, which is why I'm still so interested in what the governor is going to announce in about 3 minutes, because I feel like there's pieces that were missing for us to understand that maybe we will all be enlightened by in a few minutes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Would the good senator yield for another question?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So that tells me, as you're the legislative chair of basically the budget process, you're anxious to hear what the governor has to say. So it makes me feel as though that when you talk about that push and pull and that negotiation taking place, where is that taking place if you're not a part of it and don't know what this governor is going to be saying on the floor? I think my constituents want to know where that push and pull and negotiation is taking place and who's in the room when they're doing it. Is it 3 people in a room who are doing that still? Because I know we talked about changing that at one point.
That Senator Tedesco does know, since he's been here in both houses for quite a long time, in majorities, in minorities, that the process involves specialized groups of staff having discussions on subsections of the budget, representatives of the Senate, the Assembly, the governor's chambers, bringing those back to relevant chairs of committees for follow-up, bringing those back to ultimately the leaders of both houses to put their input in, to have the dialogue about where they're going next, what we're willing to accept, what we're not willing to accept. So it's many ongoing meetings with all of the council staff and the finance staff and the leadership staff, and then bringing back to the members themselves to discuss. It's not 3 people in a room per se, although occasionally in what they call leaders' meetings, which usually the media knows are happening and wait outside to find out something afterwards, that's when there are 3 people in a room. But for the frankly exhausting slog of getting through billions of dollars of allocations, it is the professional staff that I greatly appreciate who work around the clock this time of year.
Would the senator yield for another question?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
I have to agree with you there, Senator. Our staffs on both sides of the aisle do a tremendous job 24/7. But none of them, as I know of, have been elected by any of our constituents. They never, I don't think, took an oath of office to negotiate a budget on our behalf, but we took an oath of office to be a part of everything that takes place in the New York State Senate and Assembly and the New York State Legislature, and that's our obligation. And in light of that, you might remember this, it doesn't seem so long, but I think it was a while back. Democrats on your side of the aisle, Republicans on our side of the aisle, even governors started to look at that and said, we're separate branches of government. We have an executive branch, which is the governor. We have a legislative branch, and really, rank and file legislators should be more involved. You probably remember that. We're going to solve that problem. We're going to go to a whole series of subcommittees where myself, like ranking member of the Education Committee, which is I think around a $36 billion outlay of dollars within this whole budget. It's a very large portion of the, very important part of the budget process. Those committee meetings are going to reflect all the committees in the Senate and the Assembly. We're going to have subcommittees. We're going to have a much larger committee with the leaders of the budget process for the Senate and the Assembly, and we're going to give recommendations from those committees. I'm going to give you an example of what happened with the Education Committee, probably all other committees. We had one subcommittee meeting early on. In that subcommittee meeting, we were told, be brief, and it was a 14-minute and 15-second subcommittee meeting on a $36 billion outlay from the Education Committee. All the chairmen were there. There were 20 to 25 people. And my thought we were going to have an interaction with each other. We were going to discuss it. We were going to maybe give tables and outlines of how much we would be spending. Some of the issues that you were talking about that were reflective on both sides of the aisle we were concerned about. And we were told to be brief, 14-minute meeting for $36 billion. Every other committee met once. Can I ask you when the next subcommittee meetings are going to meet?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe that the senator is referencing table subcommittees. I haven't been here in a year where we ever really did that. I've never actually really believed that was a model that was going to prove to be very successful. It doesn't seem to have been under Democratic control or Republican control. Now, that was a very long question, but if I go back to the beginning, what do I tell my constituents? I do tell my constituents I try to stay on top of everything that is happening and keep track of the discussions and the negotiations three-way and put in my 2 cents when I can and respect the chairs of many committees here who know far more than I do on their subject areas and respect their 2 cents or positions on the budget. But as far as the senator's questions about these table scenes, I don't know that I really have a comment because I've never really thought that they played that much of a role in anything that happens during budget time here, at least in the I guess this will make the 23rd budget session for me.
For another question.
Senator Yield?
We're missing the press conference, just for the record. So if I have nothing to share because I wasn't listening, it's going to be the senator's fault, but yes, of course, I will.
Senator
continue to
Yields.
answer.
Senator, then, I mean, what was the reason why we went to those subcommittees? And should we eliminate them then, the rank and file members? Because I thought it was to expedite our recommendations, to take some of the pressure off the leadership and actually have chair people and rankers and leaders on other levels and committee people say, this is where we stand. These are the things we believe in. And I have to tell you, you're wrong about those meetings. We had 6, 7, or 8 of those meetings early on. If it was a dog and pony show, then it's only a pony show now, okay? It's even lesser than it was then. But at least we were out in public, we were talking, rank and file members, and we were giving recommendations to each other. But I'll ask you this, should we eliminate that? Is it a waste of time then?
I don't think it's ever a waste of time for members to speak to each other, make their proposals to each other, and try to, in a bipartisan way, come up with agreements and better ideas for the state. I'm not sure at this moment in history it's worth just the two of us debating whether that specific model may or may not have been more or less successful in other years. I feel that perhaps the senator is referencing something at a point in time where I was not a participant.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate your time. On the extender.
Senator Tisco, are you on the bill? You're speaking on the bill?
Yes, subcommittees, I think, could be significant because we'd be out in public, there would be transparency. You know, we have 10 budget bills, and we're going to get messages of necessity on all 10 budget bills. Now, the constituents watching should know what a message of necessity is. It's different from what the reality is from what it is here on the floor. A message of necessity is in the Constitution to bypass the constitutional 3-day mandate that we have bills before us that we can read, understand, talk about in conference, and then come out to the floor and vote on them. For 10 budget bills, that add up to $235 to $240 billion. Not one of those bills will we probably have 3 days to evaluate each one on each part of the budget, which reflects the spending in the state of New York. That's unconscionable, especially when we're probably going to be at least 20 days late with a budget. You're already 20 days late. Now, the other side says, well, now you want to spend 3 days actually reading the budget after you're 20 days late? Well, I want to spend 3 days reading the budget whenever I'm ready to vote on $240 billion for my constituents. And I think every other member of this body should want to do that too. But that's not going to happen. And I would beg my colleagues who control the legislation that's going to be coming to the floor. You did a little bit better last year, but continue to do better in sunlight. We don't need budgets coming out at 2, 3, 4, even if they're late. It won't make a difference after you're 20, 25, or 30 unless you do get up to the school districts when they're voting on that budget. They're already in disarray right now, as the good Senator Helming said, and Senator Wyke had said. Give us the time, give the public the time to see it, make sunlight, give us transparency, give the media the time to see it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have a tremendous exodus from this state. And when they contact me, they're talking about spending, taxing, and borrowing. They're talking about the fact that it's a beautiful state and people should not be leaving in groves. 101,000 people left the state last year, #1 in out-migration. It can't be the weather because I'm told that 16% went to New Jersey. Now, that's not exactly the sunny, balmy place of the Northeast, okay? A lot of cold weather season states are growing in population. We just had a little press conference today where, unfortunately, through that evaluation bipartisan nationally, we're #1 in terms of the lowest in economic development and job creation. We want to change that. We want to incentivize people to stay, live, work in this state. It's a beautiful state. We all love this state. But if you keep doubling down on the same agenda, affordability, lack of public safety, housing, it's going to be very problematic to keep people in this state. And I said this before, we're the Empire State. We don't want to become the empty state. We want people to live and stay here and love the state like we do, and that's why we serve it. Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Senator Krueger.
Senator Steck, on the bill.
On the bill. You know, my engineering training and my time in the Navy's nuclear power program taught me, beat into me, the importance of process. I care a great deal about process. We all should care about process. The state's constitution is a big deal. April 1st is April 1st. No one in this room should be surprised that April 1st follows March 31st. It has for 2 millennia. The budget is late. This is my 12th budget. This is the second latest that I've seen, last year being the latest going into May. You know who else cares about process? School superintendents, school boards. We dictate to them, and we make it very clear to them, if they don't follow our dictates, we hold money back. That's how we, the state of New York, bullies local government and our school boards, our school districts. So you've got all these school superintendents, almost 1,000 of them in the state, that are sitting on pins and needles trying to put together a budget. Why? Because statutorily, they have to send out military ballots on April 26th. And statutorily, they have to have their budget ready to go on April 23rd. No one in this room should be surprised by that. Yet every year, I hear the same, wow, that's good to know. We should remember that next year. 1,000 school districts. I've got 48 of them. And I've talked to all of the school superintendents. And I know what's going on in my district. And I'm sure it's the same in all of yours. Some of them are going to have told me, and they will be basing their budget on the governor's numbers. Holy smokes. Some of them will believe what they've heard here today. We think we're going to do a lot better, and they're going to guess at a number. Some of them will guess high on the aid number, and they'll be short. Some of them will guess low on the aid number, and they will overtax the taxpayers. But they will all be guessing, because it is impossible for a school on Monday, today, if we had a budget today, they would have a hard time hustling to have a budget done next Tuesday. A best case scenario, if we were adopting a budget Thursday or Friday this week, you're asking those school superintendents to put something together over the weekend and get it ready to go by the Tuesday deadline because you couldn't do your job. And it's the same business and same excuse every year. I would not tolerate this from my kid as a college student, and I do compare the way that we respect process, timelines, and our calendar to the way school kids do theirs, where they pull the all-nighter for the midterm. That's the budget. Then they pull another all-nighter at the end of session. That's the finals week. We need to do better than that because there's 19 million people and at $235 billion budget, we better get this right. But right now, my concern is for the 1,000 school districts, 300 of which we're told by the governor, you're going to get less. And they are guessing as they're putting this budget together. I will vote for this extender, but that's it. Wrap it up.
Are there any senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is now closed. The secretary will ring the bell. There is a substitution at the desk. The secretary will read.
Senator Krueger moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 9851, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 9055, third reading calendar 813.
Substitution is ordered. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, we've agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
The bill is restored to the non-controversial calendar. Read the last section.
Section 2, this action will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Krueger, Ortsul, Cousins, White.
Senator Mayer to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've heard the outrage by my colleagues and certainly the frustration about a late budget and its impact on schools is felt by everyone in this chamber. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the context in which this occurs, which I believe all of them know very well and knew as we entered into it. First place, every year, the closeness of the April 1st deadline to the requirements of school budgets poses a substantial problem to every district. And every year, we sit down on the day after the budget, at the moment the budget is passed, and call every district in our districts and tell them what the number is. It has been a persistent problem. It is not unique this year. Unfortunately, the second part is, given the governor's original executive budget, many superintendents started to plan layoffs and reductions based on the governor's proposal long before this moment now. I thought it was unfortunate and premature because all of us collectively agreed that our number one priority was to reject the governor's cuts and to fight for more money. And working with my Republican colleagues and my Democratic colleagues and the Assembly and every single group in the education space, we are fighting back against the governor's proposal in order to get every district more money. So this idea that now, all of a sudden, the world is falling in, yes, there are real consequences to layoffs. No one here minimizes that. But these things happen in a context where the governor has disproportionate power during the budget process. We, the Senate majority, cannot fix it on our own. Everyone knows that. The Assembly majority cannot fix it on their own. This requires a three-way agreement. That is what we are trying to do. With the leadership of our conference, we are fighting for every one of these schools, including in all of the districts represented in this chamber. And our conference, and I won't go to the past, has gone out of its way to ensure that every school district, regardless of whether they're represented by majority or minority, is treated responsibly, respectfully, and with the advocacy they deserve. It wasn't always that way, might I remind some of my colleagues. There were days where you only won for your district if you were in the majority. That has not been the mode or the method of this majority, and that will not be the way we operate. We are fighting for every kid, regardless of where they live. We are hopeful we are going to do better than the governor's proposal, but in the interim, we will push as hard as we can to get the money, the best money deal we can, the quickest time we can. But to be lectured on lateness when we collectively know that we are fighting for more and for every district is a bit disingenuous. I vote aye. I encourage my colleagues, work with us, not against us, on behalf of every kid.
Senator Mayer, to be recorded in the affirmative, announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 720, Senate Print 1669 by Senator Addabbo, an act to amend the education law.
Senator Lanza, why do you rise?
Mr. President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk
I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that you recognize Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Mr. President, accordingly, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that you recognize Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick to be heard on that appeal.
The appeal has been made and recognized. Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick may be heard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to appeal the ruling of the chair because my amendment is germane to the bill at hand. Let me be clear. I fully support the bill at hand because it helps make higher education more attainable for our veterans. And I would like to go further by addressing other barriers to education, like the inexcusable acts of anti-Semitism we have seen on our college campuses across the country and even here in New York State. Just like the bill at hand, my proposed amendment amends the education law, and it would require the chancellors of CUNY and SUNY and all presidents of accredited higher education institutions in New York to implement anti-Semitism awareness and prevention training, as well as record and report anti-Semitic incidents of hate and discrimination that occur at their institutions. Anyone attending one of our state colleges or universities should feel safe and supported, especially on campuses funded with taxpayer dollars. While incidents of anti-Semitism have long festered in a variety of settings, some groups and individuals appear to have been emboldened by their hateful rhetoric and actions in the wake of the horrific October 7th attack on Israel. A recent campus anti-Semitism report card published by the Anti-Defamation League assessed 14 of New York's higher education institutions on their actions and policies regarding anti-Semitism on campus. Of those schools, 4 received a B, 4 received a C, 4 received a D, and 2 received an F, a failing grade. None of the schools assessed in New York received a grade of A. Unfortunately, this is not a surprise to any of us who have been following the issue. Jewish students on our state campuses have been subjected to harassment, threats of violence, and hateful imagery such as swastikas. And this isn't simply coming from severely misguided students. A Cornell professor described the events of October 7th as exhilarating. In the aftermath of Iran launching hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel over the weekend, we are at a time when it is more important than ever to reassure our allies that we stand with them, and we especially need to demonstrate, not only with our rhetoric, but with our actions, that we stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters here in New York. For these reasons, Mr. President, I strongly urge you to reconsider your ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye.
Aye. Show of hands.
A show of hands has been requested and so ordered. Announce the results.
Ayes 20.
The ruling of the chair stands, and the bill in chief is before the House. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, we've agreed to restore this to the non-controversial calendar as well.
The bill is restored to the non-controversial calendar. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act take effect on the 1st of July.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ortso, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed. Reading of the non-controversial calendar.
Of the controversial calendar.
Of
the
non-controversial calendar.
We restored it. You're right, Mr. President. Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
Let me remind my majority colleagues we are immediately moving into a conference in the majority conference room. And with that, I move to adjourn until tomorrow, Tuesday, April 16th at 3 p.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, April 16th at 3 p.m.